Life can be extremely hard. It can be extremely hard to go through so many things in your life and not know what tomorrow brings, and not know the reason why you're going through all these things. People never talk about why it's so hard to submit to God oftentimes. It's so hard because you have no clue what's going on. You might have an idea, you might have a little bit of direction, you might have received a promise from God, but it can be very easy to forget that promise when you're going through hell, when you're going through all the trials and tribulations, when you are going through all these different things that make it nearly impossible to focus on the promise you have received. And sometimes you don't even receive a promise. Sometimes God just tells you to trust Him and to walk with Him. And it can be extremely hard to do that. But the story of Joseph is a great one to give you reassurance that everything is going to turn out okay. Being sold into slavery, um, being in jail, um, his whole life looking like God had forsaken him, when in reality he was just building him up to be the man that he needed him to be in order to carry out his calling. There are different things I feel like I've received as promises from God. I've received, um, you know, him telling me different things would happen in my life. And it can be extremely hard to trust that when you're looking at your reality and it looks as if that's the furthest thing that will ever happen, right? Oftentimes it can be very hard to believe in the supernatural when you are so used to living a life where logic is really needed. Here on planet Earth, it's important to deal in logic, right? But when you're dealing with God, God is capable of the supernatural. God is capable of turning situations around that no one can. God is capable of giving you opportunities that no one can. And it can be so hard to trust that, you know, and it's important to go to the Bible for wisdom. It's important to go to the Bible for encouragement. It's important to go to the Bible for peace, and it's important to go to the Bible for a reminder. Um, God has a plan for your life. He has, He's working on things behind the scenes that you cannot understand, that you will not see. And it really comes down to two things: um, trusting Him and being patient so that you can uh, see the life that He has for you, or taking things into your own hands and things eventually, going south, and it's hard to think of it that way, to think that, if you get tired and you just take things into your own hands, they'll fall apart. But it's the truth, because you don't have the foresight to see all the things you can't see. It's very important to understand a lot of the things we think are a certain way and seem to be um, such a sure thing, a lot of times it's not the truth. Um, I can speak to my own experience, when I appeared to be a godly man, living, uh, living a life for God, I wasn't, and right now, you might look at me like people in my life and you might wonder what I'm doing, right? And I've never been more in tune with God, so appearances aren't always what they seem, and especially when God is working in your life. And it's important to understand that and to trust that, God has a plan for you. Um, I'm not a person who's going to sit here and act like it's not hard, though. I don't think people do a good enough job to accept the reality that a lot of life is suffering, a lot of life is not knowing, a lot of life is sitting and waiting and feeling like you're waiting for nothing. That is a reality, but another reality is God has a plan for you, and everything will be okay as long as you trust in Him. Um, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. I'm out.